30 seconds, and I think we're okay. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to all of you who are with us today here in this sanctuary. It's great to have you at Beth-El congregation. We also, as do many churches and synagogues around the country, stream our services now. So I want to thank Mark Sloter, representing our brotherhood, for doing that today. And I want to thank all those people and welcome all those people who are watching us from their homes in whatever state and city now, or who knows, whenever they wake up. The service will be on our website for anyone to see. I want to wish them a good morning and a welcome. I want to thank each of you for being here today as Maya becomes Bat Mitzvah. If you are a guest to our temple or a guest to Judaism, first let me say that Cantor Monica Odeski, who was Maya's tutor and is helping us lead the service today, I want to welcome her. I want to welcome our president of our congregation, Russ Schultz. My name is Rabbi Brian Zimmerman. And for those of you who are guests to Judaism, a word about what's happening. When a young woman turns 13, she becomes bat mitzvah, just like a young boy becomes bar mitzvah, and that means son or daughter of the commandment. And one of the things that many Jewish young men and women around the country do is they lead services. Now the truth is, bar or bat mitzvah represents your coming of age. You're responsible for your own religious life and decisions. So while Maya can't drive a car, for example, according to the state of Texas, she is responsible for her religious decisions in her life. And so anyone who turns 13 reaches that age. But what Maya does, that our students do, is they also choose to demonstrate that ability through doing those things we would hope every adult Jew could do, to be able to lead other Jews in worship, to be able to read from the Torah, our sacred scroll in this ark, and I'll say a bit about that later, and to take their place as a Jewish leader in the community. So it's our hope that should others wish to have Maya help them in a service as a leader, she could demonstrate and lead and do those things. So today, she leads us in our Shabbat morning service. So a friendly reminder that, tempting as it is, we sort of keep our phones away till luncheon or the end of the service because it is a religious service. Mine's on because I'm communicating with the streamer. But she is leading us in a worship service. And the Jewish worship service, if you're a guest, or even sometimes if you're a Jew, can seem like just a whole bunch of prayers thrown together. But there's actually a structure to the service. It begins with early morning prayers of thanks for our body, our soul, our spirit. It moves through psalms to prayers that, if you will, begin the service, that call us to worship, that affirm our beliefs and our history. And eventually it comes to the service of the reading of Torah, our most sacred scrolls, which Maya will read from today. So the Jewish prayer service, as you will see in our prayer book, is a series of different prayers and sections that all bring us to a certain place, almost, if you will, as a series of steps over the course of the service. In leading us in worship, Maya also commits to a life of choosing observances and teaching and guidance, the life of a Jewish adult. Perhaps that decision is represented no better than in the prayer shawl or a talit. The talit whose fringes equal the 613 mitzvot or laws or life choices in the Torah. And so when a Jew in the morning wraps themselves in a prayer shawl to pray, they are literally, as well as figuratively, wrapping themselves in a Jewish life. And so to become a bat mitzvah, Maya will receive a talit from her brother Noah, and you can find the blessing for receiving a talit in our prayer book on page 299. And one other word for our guests, there are two different versions of our prayer book. So if you open the prayer book and you say, oh, there's one set of page numbers, we're there. If you're one of those who opens up one of the lighter prayer books and you say, oh, there are two sets of page numbers, I am always referring to the one in brackets. So now you are ready to go. Page 289, our worship begins with the receiving of a prayer talis and the prayer that accompanies it. Here you go.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitav tov v'tzitzit.
Amen. Our service continues on page 290. Jewish prayer comes from many different places, from religious poetry of the Middle Ages, from modern compositions, and from the Torah, as does this prayer, Ma Tovu.
Ma Tovu, Alecha Yaakov, Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu, Alecha Yaakov, Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Vani Merov Chastecha Avo Veitecha Eshachave Elecha Kodshecha Beiratecha Ma Tovu Alecha Yaakov, Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu Alecha Yaakov, Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Page 291, Prayers of Thanks for Our Body and Our Soul. We read together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar, umafli la'asot. 292. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You have created and formed it, breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God and God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biyado, nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. We turn to page 312. The Kaddish is a prayer that serves as a bridge between different sections of the service. It tells us that we are moving into the call for prayer, the affirmation of our faith with the Shema, and the prayers that speak of creation and revelation. Page 312, the Kaddish.
Ikadov, Ikadashma, Rabba, Belmati, Brachute, Vimwik, Malhute, Bahayechon, Uvyamechon, Uvayedeko, Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uvi Bizman Karif Vaimaru.
Amen.
Yeheshmir Bamavora. Leolam Alamei Alamaya. Yitbarach. Yitbarach Vishtabah. Vidvar Vidramam Vidnas. Say, Vidhadar, Vidhale, Vidhala, Shma Keduksha,
Brichu.
Leila Miko Berchata Vashirita,
Tush
Behata Vane, Emata, Damira Behama, Beamu.
Amen.
Please rise.
Page 313.
Baruch et Adonai, Hamivorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamivorach, Le'olam va'ed. We read together in English, page 315. God of all creation, you are blessed with each soul's breath. Your greatness and goodness fills the world. Knowledge and understanding surround your glory. Holiest are you among the holy, seated in glorious splendor, radiating purity and justice, bestowing loving kindness. In knowledge and understanding, you create the heavenly lights, giving them strength and power to bring light into the world. Full of splendor, they radiate brightness. The world is warmed by their flames. We rejoice in their comings and goings, reflecting the will of the Creator. Glory, honor to you. Glowing praises to your rule. You call to the sun and gives forth light. You set the patterns of the moon. You are honored throughout the heavens with songs of glory and
praise. Page 316.
Ahava rabavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla lidola v'tira, Chamalta aleinu, Ba'avur avotenu, Ve'imotenu, Shabbat Uvecha, Lamdem Chaim, Kein Techonenu, Ut Lamdenu, Amrachem Rachem Aleinu, V'ten Bilibenu, Lavinu Laskil, Lishmoa Lilmod Ulamei, Lishmo v'lasot ulkayim et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha me'ahava.
Page 317, responsibly.
There you go. O God, inspiration, guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land and every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel, and joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life we will turn to you and find purpose. May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and in their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily contact reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, abocher b'amo
Yisrael, b'yahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Bless God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Adonai echad, Baruch Shem kevod malchuto leolam vaed.
You may be seated. Hofstra Reading Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavcha uv'kol nefshecha uv'kol meotecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom alevavecha v'shinintam levanecha v'divotam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshartam leot al yedecha v'hayu letotafot beinanecha uv'tavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha Leman tiskaru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kiddishim le'elokechem ani Adonai Elokechem asher hotzeiti etchem meretz Mitzrayim le'yod lachem Elohim ani Adonai Elokechem. We continue at the bottom of page 321. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home, to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Mi kamocha, ve'elim Adonai mi kamocha, nedaba kodesh, nora tehilot, osef ele. Mi kamocha, ve'elim Adonai mi kamocha, nedaba kodesh, nora tehilot, osef ele. שירה חדשה שבחוגולים לשמחה שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמלכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד מי כמוך ואלים אדוני מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה.
So Yisrael, Kuma b'Yezrat Yisrael, Uvdeichen Emecha Yehuda v'Yisrael, Go'aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We move from the Song of the Sea the Jews sang as they crossed from slavery into freedom on their journey from Egypt. We move from there to Tefillah, the central prayer section of our service, which connects us to past generations, which reminds us that our prayers, our commitments are all part of a chain from Sinai until now, as we try to find our place as teachers, as parents, as connectors among the generations. We turn to page 323. We continue with Tefillah.
Please rise for the call to prayer. Adonai sifatai tiftak ufia kita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomer Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher HaSte'avot V'Imahot, U'Mivi Gula Levnei B'neihem, Lemran Shemo Be'Hafa, Melech Ozir U'Mashiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mehayei HaKol Atah Rav Le'Yoshia, Mechachel Ha'im Ba'Hesed, Mehayei HaKol Be'Rahamim Rabim, Zaumek Nofalim Ve'Rofei Holim, Umatir Asarim, Ka'ayim Imunato, Lishanei Afar, Mikamo Kabal Keverot, Umido Melach, Melech Memeid, Ha'ayeh, Mimatz Yeshua, V'nei Manatala Ha'ayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehayei HaKol.
We continue on page 326.
יקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך. וקרא זה זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו בהובשנו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
The bottom page 328, we read together these words that come to us from the Torah that speak of Shabbat, the day of rest and joy. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat through all ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We read together at bottom of 329. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat we try to become attuned to holiness and time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, the world of creation to the creation of the world. Baruch atah Adonai Kaddish Shabbat.
Page 330.
Retzeh, retzeh, retzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael, utafilatam be'ahavat yikabel, utehi leratzon tamid, utehi leratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, be'yira na'avod, she'otecha levadecha, be'yira na'avod.
Page 332, a prayer of thanksgiving for our many blessings. We read responsively in English. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filled with awe and challenging our imaginations, modim anachnu lach, for this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, modim anachnu lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, modim anachnu lach. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, modim anachnu lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, modim anachnu lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others may live in dignity and freedom, modim anachnu lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, modim anachnu lach. We pray that we may live, not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulacha Na'el Hodot. We continue on 334.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uveracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, sim shalom, b'cheinu yotzreinu, kulanu ke'echad be'opanecha, ke'be'or panecha, natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chaim ve'avat chesed, u'tzedeka u'veracha ve'rachamim ve'chaim ve'shalom. Sim shalom, shalom. Amen.
You may be seated. We take a moment, either the next few pages, the words of your heart, just taking a moment to look around the room for our own silent prayers and reflections. Time of silence.
Imrefi, ve'gion libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'gali, v'gali.
We turn to page 362 for Seder Kriyat HaTorah LeShabbat, and in a moment we will take the Torah out from the Ark, the Torah which contains our most sacred teachings. Jews have different beliefs about what it means that the Torah was divinely inspired. Some believing God literally wrote all of its words, some feeling it is a collection of our experience just transferred from generations to generations. But for all Jews, the Torah is the closest document trying to understand what God asks of and expects to us. And so when we pass the Torah to a new generation, we continue that process of passing and continuing not only the literal words in there, but the hopes and dreams of Jews from every generation. Now that's the easy part. The hard part is to read from the Torah means not only to learn to read in Hebrew from a book written thousands of years ago, but to learn to do so without vocalization. We do that because the system of vocalization is developed centuries later in Judaism. People just sort of knew how to read the Torah with vowels until they didn't. And then a system of dots and spots were created to tell them. But Maya will read from the Torah as young men and women have before her for generations in the same way it was written thousands of years ago. And so to read from the Torah, written by hand, continuing the most sacred stories of our people from the creation of the world to the death of Moses, is to take her place with her story among all our other stories. And so as we turn to page 362, we ask the congregation to rise as we prepare to take the Torah out, and we will call up her parents, Violet and Nathan, to pass the Torah to her.
אין כמוך באלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני בירושלים. צאו שערים ראשיכם, ושאו פרחי עולם, יבוא מלך הכבוד. מי הוא זה מלך הכבוד? אדוני צבאות, הוא מלך הכבוד. סלע.
Door by door, we pass the Torah from generation to generation. Judaism survives because Torah is carried on the shoulders of great-grandparents and grandparents and parents, so that another generation may take Torah and make it their own.
Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Lemo Yisrael B'Kedushato, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti uramema Shemo Yakdav. Lecha Adonai Hagedul Hagevur Ha'tiferet V'Hatzetzach V'Hahod. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, והמתנשא לכל ראש. רממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לקודשו. רממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לקודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רממו. רממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקדשו. רממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקדשו. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים לעולם, לעולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם, העולם עומד.
Please be seated. We will be reading from the book of Genesis. There's always a few people at home who say, Rabbi, I'm actually fine. I'm following the book. So we will be reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 49, beginning with verse 25. For those of you here, it is the final set of blessings that are offered from Joseph to his sons. And if you remember the challenges in those, Jacob to his sons. Joseph passes away 2 chapters later. So Jacob to his sons, and if you remember the story, even if you don't know it well, if you remember the rivalry between the sons, the favoritism of one brother from his father among the others, the journeys down to Egypt, all that culminates at the very end of the book of Genesis, which is where Maya is reading for us today. And I'm not going to say more because she's going to teach us about the Torah portion after she reads. We're going to call up members of her family for Aliyot, and the first Aliyah, the first coming up to the Torah, Ta'amdu Likro et Torah. We call up to the Torah Emma and Maya Morris for the blessing. And you can find that blessing on 368 if you wish to follow along.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Mel avicha ve'asvecha va'ei shedai vivarchecha b'chod shamayim me'ol b'chod Behold the home rovetzet tahat behold Shadaim varacham behold avicha gavru abechot harai atavat givot olam tien lo shall save Ukokod Nesir Echav Binyamin Zev Yidrav Babocher Yochalat V'le'erev Yehalek Shahalal.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'kahaye olam nata bekoheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. You guys can stay over here and just inch a few inches this way. Here we go. For our second aliyah, Shani Likro et Torah, Ya'amod, David Prohovsky, for the second aliyah to the Torah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'rachtan lanu et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Korele Shiftei Yisrael Shaneim Asor V'zot Asher Diber Lachem Avichem Vayvarech Otam Yish Asher Kavyachato Berach Otam Vaitzav Otam, Vayomer Alichem, Ani Nesav Elami, Gavru Oti, Elavotai, Elhamara, Asher Pistei, Ephron Haiti, Bamara, Asher Pistei, Amakpele, Asher Apanamamre, Beretz Canaan, Asher Kana Abraham, et Hasadeh, Mate, Ephron Hahiti, Lahahuza Kavir.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei natan olam atah b'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. You can hang right here. You're great. And Shlishi for our third aliyah of the Torah. Ta'amod likro et Torah habat mitzvah ma'ali bat aviva Yosefina v'natan likro et Torah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'omim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. She just jumped up. It's okay. Let's go to the end of the other. Bingo. There it is. You got it.
Shema Gavru et Avraham Va'et Sarah Ishto Shema Gavru et Yitzhak Va'et Rivka Ishto V'Shema Kavarti et Leah Miknei Hasadeh V'hamara asher ba'u me'et b'neit V'echal Yaakov letzavot et banav V'yesov raglav el hamidah Vayikva Vayeyasef el Amav. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Okay, we are going to continue with the Hofstra, but before we do, we're going to rise as we dress the Torah, and we're going to call your brother back up to help us lift and dress and hold the Torah. Api Adonai v'yad Moshe. La 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 Please be seated. The Hofstra Reading, and the Hofstra is the additional reading that becomes a part of the Shabbat cycle a little over 2,000 years ago. Many different theories. One holds that this is from the time of Syrian rule when Jews were forbidden from reading Torah, and they picked other passages that reminded them of the forbidden reading. Whatever the origins of Hofstra Reading, we keep it now, and the Hofstra, or additional reading, connects in some way to the Torah portion. So just as Maya's reading included the final words of Jacob and then Joseph to their children, this includes King David's words to his son as he prepares to take on the kingship. The blessing over reading of Haftarah is on page 372, and it will be from the book of Kings, chapter 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvayim tovim v'ratzah b'divrei hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'invi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek v'yagavu yemei David Lamud Vaitzav at Shomo Beno Lemur Anochi Holei Baderech Koharetz Vahazakta Vahayita Lais V'shomaita at Mishmeret Adonai Elohecha Lalechet Bidrochav Lishmor Hukotav Mitzvotav Umishvotav Vaidrotav Kakatu Betorah Moshe Lama Antiskil Et Kol asher ta'aseh va'et kol asher tivnei sham.
Cantor Monica Odeski will lead us in the blessing after the Haftarah, on page 372.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol amim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mkayem, shekol devarev v'mitzvat tzedek, al ha'torah v'avodah v'al hanviim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת, על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך, בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
In my Torah portion, which is at the end of the book of Genesis, Jacob, who is at the end of his life, blesses his sons, Joseph, Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. He blesses them with their personalities and the destinies of the tribe that will be descended from them. After Jacob blessed his sons, he died. Once Jacob passed away, the brothers were afraid Joseph would hate him, because they had sold Joseph into slavery. Joseph eased their worry and tells them what has happened was all been a part of God's plan for him and his family. I believe what Joseph did was kind and somewhat understanding. I believe Joseph cared about relationships and family more than possessions and items. I believe Joseph was able to forgive his brothers because he had plenty of possessions as Pharaoh's right-hand man. However, he had no family with him at the time. I also believe Joseph felt very blessed and honored by God. Meanwhile, Jacob is blessing his kids and talking about their strengths. In my opinion, he should have talked more about their weaknesses. He also should have talked about resilience and not getting too comfy where you are, that they would need to push themselves to aim higher, because unfortunately it could all be taken away at any time. I may sound harsh, but later on in Jacob's sons' lives, they got sold into slavery. At that time, they could have stayed resilient and continued to work hard, but instead they had given up and decided to deal with their fate. I want to thank everyone for coming to my Bat Mitzvah and sharing this day with me. Thank you, Rabbi Zimmerman, for mentoring, encouraging me, and being super cool, and the world's most marvelous cantor monica. Without cantor monica, I would have not been here today. Also, thanks to my mom and dad and brother, in particular my brother, for always being there for me. Thank you, Gigi.
She did a great job. And I know you'd love to say, can I go sit down now? But you can't, because the next thing that's going to happen is that we're going to give your parents a chance to talk to you. So I knew that's what you do, but they're going to. They've earned it. There are a lot of people who I know would love to get up and say, Maya, you were amazing. Can we tell you? They don't all get to go right now, but mom and dad do. And we're going to call them up to the bima right now.
I never give up an opportunity to give you a speech.
You left out thank you. There was no grammar.
I will improve my grammar. Okay. Thank you for coming today to celebrate Maya's bat mitzvah. It means so much to us that you chose to spend the day celebrating with our daughter. Thank you, Cantor Marvelous Monica. Thank you. Thank you, wonderful Rabbi. And thank you. We are grateful for all the support and mentoring and friendship we receive. For those who have come far away, thank you for braving the airlines and travel. We are all very grateful. And for those who have seen a bat mitzvah for the first time, I thank you for joining and being a part of what we call the tribe So you're now part of the tribe, witnessing our daughter becoming a bat mitzvah. Thank you. Maya, when I heard you practicing and studying, I was flooded with memories. I remember vividly what it was like to prepare for my bat mitzvah. But it was the memories of your earliest years that came back to me. I remember us going to the park, to play in the park while your brother was learning calculus at Chinese school. I remember the first day with you, the caregivers handed you to me, and you started playing with the necklace I was wearing. Even then, I could see your inquisitive spirit and your focus on detail. The next day, when I wore something different, you picked up on it right away. You were only 11 months old. I ask that you continue to take the inquisitive spirit with you. Continue to ask questions, regardless the answer. Continue to put your studies first. This curious nature will serve you well as you grow and make the choices that will guide you the rest of your life. The Torah not only contains our commandments and our virtues, but it also contains a great deal of wealth in the stories of our people over the many, many generations, thousands and thousands and thousands of generations. Your Torah portion and Hofstra are about fathers giving the final advice to their children before they pass away. One area that we've talked about, I think these fathers could have expanded on, is resilience, continuing to learn and being prepared for what may come. In my lifetime, we used rotary dialed phones, something I'm not even entirely sure you know what is anymore, and went to the library to find books using the Dewey Decimal System. In college, learning the Dewey Decimal System was a required 1-credit course, and you had to take it in order to graduate. Today, you use cell phones and research via Google or Bing. You have YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and TikTok. See, I have stayed relevant even for my age. I have no idea what your future is going to look like, but I do know learning to be resilient and continuing to learn will serve you well. However, that's not what's most important for you to remember, me telling you. If the only thing you ever remember me telling you is that I want you to remember I love being your mom. I love absolutely everything about your mom, being your mom. I love you as I love your brother more than anyone else in the whole entire world, anyone else in the whole entire universe, always and forever. So if that's the only thing you ever remember hearing from me, that's good enough for me. Mazel tov, my little one. I love you. Your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad. Whoops.
So I have nothing to add. Well, I do. This is all Violet's time. I mean, for Maya. She did all the hard work you did for this. It's just amazing. And what I do want to say to you, Maya, is that along with your brother, you have brought more to us than we have given to you. So, thanks.
And Kendra Monica now offers a prayer, a gift, and song. So you're still standing here and listening.
And smiling. If you want to follow along to what this means, it's on page 651. Al kol ele. Al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatok, al bitenu hatinoket, shmo eli hatov. Al ha'ish ha'mevoreret, al ha'mayim hazakim, al ha'ish ha'shab ha'baita min ha'mechakim. Al kol ele, shmon ali hatov. Al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, על המר והמתוק, אל נא תעקור נטוע, אל תשכח את התקווה. השיבני ואשובה אל הארץ הטובה. שמוע לי על זה הבית, על הגן, על החומה. מיגון, מפחד פתע וממלחמה. שמור על המעט שיש לי, על האור ועל הטף, על הפרי שלא הבשיל עוד בשני הסף. על כל אלה, שמור נא לי אלי הטוב, על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק. אל נא תעקור נטוע, אל תשכח את התקווה. השיבני ואשובה אל הארץ הטובה. For the honey and the bee sting, for the bitter and the sweet, all the things which join as one to make our lives complete. For the future of our children, for our prayers will never cease. For the hope that with tomorrow comes a world of peace. Al kol ele, shmor na li eli hatov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatok. Al nא תעקור נטוע, אל תשכח את התקווה. השיבני ואשובה אל הארץ הטובה.
We turn to 374 and we rise as we return the Torah to the ark.
הודו הארץ והשמיים, וארם קרן למו, תהי לכל חסידיו לפני ישראל, עם קרובו, הללויה. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי אל תעזובו, עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיך שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם. The Elenu is on 586.
In a moment.
Oh, okay. In a moment.
So I asked your brother to stay up here, Maya, because I know you guys have a very close, loving, and teasing relationship, and I know you have each other's backs. And this week's Torah portion, Hofstra portion, are words between family members who have been through a lot, and who sometimes agree and sometimes don't agree, but they always have each other's backs through all of the drama. We have Jacob and Joseph and the brothers, and in your Hofstra portion, King David and his son Solomon, and they're incredible stories, and they see all kinds of things during their life, just like you've been through all kinds of incredible things. And if there are a few things we can take away from their words, because everything you read are words of blessing. And as you pointed out, sometimes words of like pushing people harder. Or as you said, sometimes you thought they should push them even harder, but in their final words. But what can we get from some of those words? Well, we can get from the words of Jacob, who thought that he had lost his child and had been through incredible tragedy, and then was reunited at the end of his life with his son and his children in Egypt. We can learn that opportunities for joy and celebration are always there, that there's always hope in the future even if we don't see it. From Joseph, who was thrown in a pit and has plenty of reasons to be angry at his siblings, we learn about the power of forgiveness when the other person's really sorry. And for King David, we learn that you have to be prepared. It's the end of his life, and he turns to his son, who will be the king, and maybe he wants to hug him, and maybe he wants to tell him all kinds of great things, but he knows the most important thing is to teach him how to be a good king. Preparation, forgiveness, love, always knowing that in our hardest times, the possibility of joy is just around the corner, and wholeness and healing. We offer to you all our prayers for you, all our prayers to your family, and the lessons from the portions you read. And we do it with words that come from another part of the Torah near the end of Aaron, Moses' brother's life, when he offers these prayers to the Jewish people. Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Maya. May God watch you and guard you and protect you. May God keep you strong in that way that you are resolute and know what's best. May God keep you forgiving. May God grant you that sense of kindness and gentleness that are a part of you, even as you charge on ahead and in the paths you take and the journeys that are before you throughout your life. May God give you the blessings of family, of health, of joy, of shalom, peace and wholeness. Amen. We continue on page 586.
Aleinu l'shabek l'adon hakol, l'ateg gdula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu k'gayei haratzot, velo hasamanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'go'alenu ke'rochamonam, v'nachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
We remain standing for another moment. We turn to page 598. At every Jewish service, we conclude with words of Kaddish. Kaddish, which means sanctification, remembrance of the acknowledging God's guiding presence in our life. But Kaddish is also the prayer, the mourner's Kaddish. Kaddish Yitom, the prayer we say when we remember those who have passed away. So even in our moments of greatest joy, especially in our moments of greatest joy, we think about all those who are no longer with us, who brought us to this moment, who touched our lives, and are with us in our hearts, even in our times of celebration. On this Shabbat, we ask you to take a moment silently to think about parents or grandparents, teachers, mentors, who may have brought you to this moment so that you too could be here with life to celebrate and rejoice. page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chaye chon uv'yomei chon uv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ul'olmei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitrom v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shmeid kudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran bi'almal v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories be a blessing to us as we remember. You may be seated. We're almost at our conclusion. I know that every one of you would love to come up and give Maya a hug and who knows what else. Only one person gets to share some final words here from the Bima, representing our brotherhood, our sisterhood, our congregation, our teachers. Russ Schultz, the president of our congregation, has some gifts and presentation.
Give me a minute, put everything up here. Okay. Take a breath, it's over. All that's left is partying. When I spoke with your mother, she told me how good you are at your academics and that you always step up and get things done that need to be done. And you really demonstrated both of those today. You did a wonderful job, and I know how proud your family and friends are of what you accomplished today. So congratulations. As president of the congregation, one of the honors that I have is that I get to come to the bar and bat mitzvahs and share as we see our young people entering our Jewish traditions. And that truly is an honor for me. But I have one other honor. I get to give them the stuff, the gifts that come from the congregation that show that we honor what they've accomplished today. So let me start with a couple of things here. All right, first is a certificate that both the rabbi and I signed commemorating your bat mitzvah. So I'd like to keep that. It shows that you did it. From Nifty, we give the National Federation of Temple Youth, you're going to receive a $250 gift certificate in honor of your bat mitzvah and also to be used towards a trip to Israel. From FWFT, the Fort Worth Federation of Temple Youth, they're going to plant a tree in Israel in your honor. From our brotherhood, the men of Reform Judaism, they have a book for you on the doorposts of your house. From the sisterhood, our women of Reform Judaism, you have some candlesticks that you can use for your Shabbat services. Our Jewish war veterans are giving you a book called They Were the Soldiers in Peace and War. And lastly, from the Tarrant County Jewish Federation, they're giving you a tzedakah box. Maya, congratulations, you did a beautiful job today. I'm so proud of you.
Hanging out right here. Maya's like, what's next? What's next? It's very good, always ready. We continue with our closing song, which is the final line of the Kaddish prayer you just heard us read. Oh, say shalom. If you wish to look at the words, may God, who brings peace above, bring peace, wholeness, fullness to us, healing in all its ways. If you wish to follow, it's also on page 647. Oh, say shalom.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, והכל ישראל ואמרו amen. We got to give the rabbi enough time to get the challah, so we will sing this for a little longer. There we go.
I know that Maya's going to be excited about this because she loves challah. Following our service, you're all invited with the family as you exit to go right and then left, or just follow everybody else into the social hall for a wonderful lunch, to join them and to congratulate and to be with them. Before we conclude, the last thing we do is join in the blessing over wine and that's a microphone. Wow.
Step back.
Setting up the microphone, Kaddish cup. So, wine, may our day be sweet. Wine signifies the day. And challah, the blessing over bread, our sustenance, which we will say together before we go and eat in the other room. And so we begin first with the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'rata banu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereshit, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציאת מצרים. כי הבנו בחרת, אותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
L'chaim. And the blessing over bread. Some nice big ones today. Thank you, Cindy Simon. We're going to join in the motzi, and then you get to have the first bite of this beautiful challah. Ready? Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Take a big rip. You earned it. You can do, oh, yes. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom. Mazel tov.
Okay, I'll see you during the week.
Thank you for all your help.
Monica. Say hi to Susan for you.
Yeah, please do.
Yes, please.